In the previous lecture, we understand how we can use while loop in Python. We understand how we can print 1 to 10 number on the terminal very easily. Now, let's take a look at how we can use for loop in Python. While loop works perfectly well. In general, sometimes you may want something for specific needs. One such need is to perform a block of code for each element of a set. You can do this with for statement. Let's say you have a variable word and you have some string inside. Now you want to iterate this word one by one using for loop. So if you want to iterate and print all these values on the terminal, you will start with for statement. So the for loop starts with the for keyword, and then you need to create a variable to store each element. So I'm going to create here a variable word in, and then you need to specify the list you want to iterate. So I'm going to specify here words. Then I'm going to specify colon here to specify block of for loop, and then I'm going to say here print word, just like this. When I execute the statement, you can see I have all the elements on my terminal. Now let me first explain this statement. The for loop is going to iterate all these values one by one using this variable. The for loop will first take this list, store this first element in this variable and print it. Then move to the next element, store in this variable and print it. The for loop will do the same thing until we have the last element in this variable. Now keep in mind, you can specify any name to your variable here in the for loop. Just after that, we have in keyword. Using in keyword, I'm going to get the values from this list and store it in this variable. So I want to get the value from this word. So just out of this in keyword, I'm going to specify words. And then I want to get the values from these words and store it in this word variable. If you want, you can change this variable as well. If I specify here x, the result would be same. That doesn't matter. Once you understand how we can iterate a list, now let me show you how you can iterate over dictionaries. To loop over dictionaries, you need to store keys in this variable and print it. So for example, let's say I have a dictionary D, and in this dictionary I have some key and values. So I have some key and value pairs in this dictionary, and I want to iterate it and display all these values in the terminal. I'm going to just simply specify this D variable here, just like this. So when you work with dictionary, the dictionary is going to return the key of the value. So in this x variable, I have this x key. So I'm going to just get rid of this x and specify here key. To understand this clearly, I'm going to specify key here. So now we have these keys from this dictionary. I can print it using print statement. When I execute the statement, you can see I have x, y, and z. Now we can use these keys to print value as well. As you know, we can use keys to print values. For example, if I just specify here comma, in the single quote, I'm going to specify colon to separate key and value, then specify comma, and here I'm going to call D, and in the square bracket, I'm going to pass key. When I execute the statement, you can notice I'm going to have x and its value 1, y with the value 2, and z with the value 3. So using this for loop, you can get all your keys and values very easily. Now let's take a look at one more example. Now let me show you how you can iterate over numbers. So for example, let's say you have variable numbers, and in this list you have some numbers. Now you want to iterate this number list variable. You will just simply use this variable here, just start this in, and store this number in this variable. So I'm going to change this key to n, and I'm going to just change this key here as well, and I'm going to specify n here. When I print the statement, you can notice I'm going to have all the numbers on my terminal. Now that's super easy to iterate over numbers. Now let me show you a very interesting function. Because iterating over a range of numbers is a common thing to do, Python has a built-in function to make range for you. For example, let's say if I just print here, and I'm going to just say here list. To create a list, and in the parentheses I'm going to call a function range. Now this function is going to create a range from start to end. So I'm going to just specify first integer value here. I'm going to say here 1. So this is the starting point of my range, and then I'm going to specify here 10. Now this is the ending point of my range. When I print the statement, you can notice I have a list with the value 1 to 9. So the range start with 1 and end before this ending value. So using this range variable, I can easily create a list. So what if I get rid of this number variable right from here and specify this range variable instead of this number variable, just like this. If I do that, you can notice when I execute the statement, I'm going to have my numbers. So the for loop is going to iterate over this range from 1 to 10. So I'm going to have 1 to 9 values on my terminal. So in this range function, I'm going to pass 2 arguments. The first argument specify from where I want to start the range, and I'm going to specify the second argument to specify where I want to end my range. So I want to end my range before 10, and I want to start my range from 1. So you can notice here the range start from 1 and end on 9. So now what if I specify here just 10, just like this. When I execute the statement, the range starts from 0 and end on 9. So you will have 10 numbers on your terminal. Now what if you want to iterate over 2 sequences? Sometimes you want to iterate over 2 sequences at the same time. Now let's suppose you have 2 sequences with corresponding keys and values. So for example, let's say if I have here 2 variables, key and values. These are the different sequences. We have key variable, and in this list we have keys, and this is the variable values, and in this list we have values. Now I want to print the keys with the corresponding values. To do that, I can use this range function. Let me show you how you can do that. So in the for loop, I'm going to just specify a variable name I, and I'm going to say for in I, and in the range I'm going to specify another function which is length. We already know that why we use this function. This function is going to return the length of your list. So here I'm going to specify key. So this function is going to return the size of this list to this range variable, and then I'm going to print this I right here, just like this. So I'm going to just execute this statement, and here I'm going to have 0, 1, 2, 3. So this is going to be the range of your key list. So you can notice we have 4 elements in this keys. So I'm going to have 0 to 3 values on the terminal. Now what I want to print keys with corresponding values. So in the print statement, I'm going to specify key. In the square bracket, I'm going to specify I and specify comma here. Then in the double quote, I'm going to specify colon to separate key and value. And then here I'm going to call values, and in the square bracket, I'm going to specify I. Because both values and key have the same length, I'm going to specify I variable to both these key and values. Now when I execute the statement, you can notice I have the keys and their corresponding values. I'm going to access key and values. Now once you understand how you can use range function in Python, let me show you a very interesting another function which is zip, which zips together the sequences, returning a sequence of tuple. The return value is a special zip object meant for iteration, but it can be converted using list. So for example, if I just create here a print statement to display the result, if I just add here print, and in this print I'm going to add a function zip, and in the zip I'm going to pass key and value. So here I'm going to pass key and specify the corresponding values. When I print the statement, you can notice I have zip object. Now we can convert this zip object into your sequence. So I'm going to just grab this zip object, and using this list function, I'm going to convert this zip into my list. So when I print the statement, now the zip is going to return key and values in tuple. You can notice here we have key and values of the type tuple, and we just converted this tuple into list. Now what if you want to convert this list into dictionary? You can simply use here a function dict. When I execute the statement, I'm going to have dictionary as a result. So this dictionary is going to return the key and value pair. So once you have your key and value pair, you can iterate it using for loop. Let me show you how you can iterate key and values at the same time. So I'm going to just grab this statement. I'm going to just grab this dict just like this and specify that instead of this range function, just like this. Now we need to get this item one by one and store them in some variables. You can notice here this dict is going to return this dictionary. So now we need to just get this key and value and store it in the variable, and using print I'm going to just print that variable. Let me just get rid of this print statement, and here I'm going to create 2 variables, key, specify comma, and specify value. So this variable key is going to store these keys, and the value variable is going to store these values. Now this function is going to return this dictionary. We need to attach a method here to return one item at a time. So you need to add here a method called items, just like this. So this item methods is going to return this item one by one to these variables, and using print statement I'm going to just print it. So here I'm going to just print key just like this and value. So when I print the statement, you can notice I'm going to have my key and values. So this is very easy way you can iterate over multiple sequences. Now practice with this code to understand how for loop work in Python. In the next lecture, we're going to talk about break and continue keyword in Python.